Hello folks, Ben Mitchell here, Editor-in-Chief of Squiggly Online Animation Magazine, introducing another episode of our podcast strand, Animation One-to-Ones. In this episode, we discuss the latest chapter in DreamWorks Animation's blockbuster musical franchise, Trolls Band Together. The third film in the series continues the adventures of Poppy, played by Anna Kendrick, and Branch, played by Justin Timberlake, and the emotional journey they embark upon to reunite Branch with his brothers, who once made up the boy band phenomenon BroZone. Trolls Band Together is steered by returning director Walt Dohrn and producer Gina Shay and is co-directed by Tim Heitz. Dohrn's other credits include directing roles on the first two Trolls films, as well as the Shrek short films Donkey's Christmas Shrektacular and Shrek's Yule Log, alongside work as a story artist, layout artist, character designer, writer, and voice actor. A man of many hats, or brightly coloured troll wigs. Squiggly contributor Martyn Warren got some time with Walt Dohrn to discuss just what's new in the world of trolls.
I was curious what the inspirations were for Velvet and Veneer, the new antagonists for a Band Together.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love the villains. You know, there's this old quote. I don't know who it came from, but it's that your movie is only as good as your villains are. It's just a quote that has circled around the studio a lot. And it's important to have these great antagonists that you love to hate. And they get to kind of embody the things we can't do, I think, in life, which makes them fun for the audience. But building these guys was really complex. You know, who are they? You know, we started with like cat-like kind of behaviors and movements. We started talking about that. At one point, they were kind of Bergens. We tried that. You know, we really kept going back to this idea of kind of pop diva behavior, kind of mixed with this contemporary idea of the desire to be famous just to be famous. So we started building them, and they started feeling too human-like, I think, for us. There are no humans in the troll world. So we started pushing and pulling them and talking about kind of bendy toys, making them toyetic, you know, capturing that spirit. We looked at 1930s animation for some of the design elements. So Craig Kelman, who designed these characters, really pushed the idea, and the animators really pushed how these characters move. So they are a blend of tons of ingredients to create this unique villain we haven't seen before.
And when the Trolls World Tour released, there were a lot of sort of uncertainty or questions around like cinema and VOD, and it's been interesting because in just a short amount of time, cinemas have had this like massive comeback, not just with the Barbieheimer, but with Across the Spider-Verse and even the Super Mario film. I was just curious what your personal thoughts were on the state of cinema and VOD, just as because World Tour like sort of was quite a big thing like 3 years ago in terms of that like the nature of VOD, and now cinemas are having this big comeback. I was just curious what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, it's a complex situation. I love that we've found kind of a balance. You know, I mean, first and foremost, my education was in the theater. You know, I grew up in the 70s, so I didn't even have a VCR, you know, those early years. So I think the theater experience and the communal experience you get in the theater is unlike any other. And especially with a film like Trolls, which is, you know, we mix the music like you're at a concert. You know, we design these elaborate and dynamic and wild, weird worlds that we want to transport the audience to. So the bigger the canvas inside a theater, the more you're transported. So those are extremely important. And I love that now that the theater kind of is this extra special experience for people. You know, there's so much reverence for going to the theater, and I think that's coming back, so that excites me. But I'm also, you know, with Trolls World Tour, that it became this streaming movie, I think we reached even a larger audience of people. You know, we could feel that, like, the fan base kind of grow from that experience. Plus, at that time, it was nice to share the film with so many people who were kind of having a hard time, you know, and these movies are so much about joy and making you feel good. So I like that a film can exist in the theater first and then be accessible to people at home as well.
Oh, I was very much used to growing up in the 90s with if you wanted to see something new, you went to the cinema and then you could wait for a few months and then go to Blockbuster, which is but now it's just like no, you just watch it on your TV. And it's like, so because there's a lot of one thing I really picked up on from Band Together. There's a lot of new characters as well as like returning favorites. Which one out of the returning and the new cast, which ones hit a chord with you the most during the production?
Yeah, well, definitely our returning cast is super important. And, I've been collaborating with Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick for 10 years. So to be able to work with those guys over this vast, since 2013, this huge amount of time, we're able to really work on the characters. These guys, they help us write the film. They help bring these characters to life in ways I couldn't even imagine. They're huge collaborators on the films themselves. So that's a joy. But I love bringing in new actors and new people to breathe new life into the film as well. Get a chance to get to work with actors I love. I've been wanting to work with Amy Schumer and Andrew Reynolds for many years, just trying to find the right role for them and get the right time. I'm a huge Eric Andre fan. It was great to work with him. We've been trying to put Kid Cudi in a Trolls film. We just needed to find the right role for him. And he was excellent. Like he came up with this whole character himself. We had an idea of who Clay was, but he came up with a voice and an attitude that, again, I probably spent more time in the recording booth the last few years than I've done anything in my life because the cast is so huge. It's just such a pleasure.
And what was it like to work with? I hope I'm saying his name right. Tim Heitz.
Tim Heitz.
Yeah, because it's just because he was not also the co-director on the film, but for those listening or reading that don't know, he was also a story artist on several DreamWorks films. How did you know him, and what was it like to collaborate with him?
Oh, he was such a joy. And again, I've known him for many years. I met him when we were working on Peabody and Sherman at DreamWorks. So that's when I first met him. He was just so incredibly talented. The guy could draw like nobody else. And like most story artists, I started out as a story artist. They just live, breathe, and think story. And it's a particular kind of job where you have to know how to draw, you have to know how to stage a scene, you have to be able to perform it and pitch it. It has all the elements of a director. So you're kind of a director in training. And I just felt like he had so much to give. And so we just evolved together. He was a story artist on Trolls 1. Then he was like a head of story. He got to direct the Trolls holiday special. That's where you kind of try out your directing skills. And I just knew he would be a perfect partner on this. And he has done so much. We really are the kind of two-headed beast. The film is so massive. So at a certain point, we try to to divide off and divide and conquer. Like, okay, you go over there, work with the animators. I'll go over here and work with the musicians. So it's incredibly important to have these collaborators on our film.
And out of the musical sequences that you both worked on, for you in particular, which one was your favorite to direct?
Yeah. That's a good question because they're all so much fun. But I always go to there's this on Vacay Island. There's this medley of kind of family band / boy band songs. It's this medley, and it needed to perform so much, even emotionally. First of all, it's just fun and silly. There's a whole bunch of music there. How do we weave all that together in this cohesive experience? And at the core of it, it's this real shift emotionally for Branch, where he starts to embrace his past. He's pushing away his past because he struggles with abandonment, but that he embraced it, and that even though the song's funny, it's emotional, and it's just so celebratory. I loved working on that part of the film.
And having performed as a voice actor yourself for several projects with Cloud Guy in the Trolls series in particular, what was it like to direct the cast, like having been expanded over like the course of the franchise?
Yeah, working with the cast has, like I said, it's so much fun because it's grown over the years. I love working with them and being extremely collaborative, whether it's our returning cast, Anna and Justin, or the new guys we brought in, like Eric Andre and David Diggs, Troy Sivan. Like we talked about Amy and Andrew, Camila Cabello. I mean, just an incredible cast. I learned so much from them, and they bring so much to their individual characters. Again, Trolls is all about collaboration. I'm merely one piece of the puzzle, and that we bring everybody's influence, from the animators to our choreographers to the musicians. I think we just work so well as a community of artists.
And sorry, I just had a squeaky chair. The film appeared to have like a really quick turnover for production, because just 3 years from World Tour to now, and like, because usually like for Disney and Pixar films, for example, they're known to take at least 5 years, and yet you've guys managed to like not just do the shorts, but do another feature in just 3 years, which is just incredible to see. Just considering how detailed it was when I went to see the film on a preview screening, I was really impressed by that. What was the biggest challenges though to get that made in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, it's funny when you put it that way, because it's like I worked on the film for 4 years. I start working on ideas for the film a year before we start production. We start forming ideas and collecting ideas, and working with Gina Shay, the producer. We start just pitching ideas back and forth with each other and pitching those to the studio. So that begins 4 years ago. Then it's 3 years of production. And you're right. It's like, it can take up. This production was very tight. The crew was so great. We had a lot of returning artists. We had a lot of kind of new technology to deal with, but I would call it like a marathon at a 100-yard dash pace. I think everyone was so passionate about this film, about pushing artistic expression, about pushing the worlds and pay homage to where we were. We brought in a lot of new artists who had new ideas. I think one thing in particular that still surprises me today when I watch the film is our Act 3. It's something I hadn't really got to do before, which is choreograph a giant action set piece while still making it a musical, while still taking the audience on a roller coaster ride, and in a world you have never seen before with characters you've never seen. That one still just impresses me, where it's just this blank slate. It's just a concept, an idea, and we get all the crew together. We talk about how do we pull this off, and like you said, with this really shortened time frame, it really goes down to the passion and ingenuity that the crew has.
I can definitely feel the ingenuity and like the creativity from the animators, just with the small details, like even just something like the ocean being made out of beads and like but it was just so detailed, and like the fluff texture on like the trolls in particular, like it was just very I was honestly like just sitting there just thinking there's a 3-year like release between World Tour and now. It was just I was quite floored, to be honest, with just the amount of detail that was in it.
Thank you.
With this new adventure comes new locations, one of them you mentioned already, for the characters to explore. How did you and the team come up with these new creations?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think we have an idea of some places we want to go, based on some music or based on the story. We really wanted a chance to kind of re-explore Bergen Town from Trolls 1, kind of go back there, but it's a changed place. So how do we represent that? Was really fun. And we're pretty much, there's a scene in the troll tree that was in the original Bergen Town, before it got changed. So we're not really in Troll Village this time, which opened up our world. Well, opened up where we could go. And we started talking about, I wanted to take the audience on a vacation. So we go to a place that's literally Vacay Island, we call it. We wanted to take them mini golfing. We wanted to take them to a wedding. We wanted to take them to a city, which we haven't done before in a troll movie. How do we represent that? And we have this kind of fiber-based world that our production designer Kendall Cronkite came up with in Trolls 1. We have a new production designer, Ruben Perez, who worked with her. And we started talking about him, like, what can these be made of? What's materials we haven't seen before, but still cohesive to that design aesthetic? So it really just begins as a conversation. And then little influences come, like, oh, we've tried water as this kind of gossamer fabric in the last film, but what if water was these water beads that my kids play with? It's like, in the weekend, my backyard is filled with these water beads. Oh, that's a really fun texture. FX guys buy some of these water beads, they grow them, they film them. We go out and play with them in the parking lot. So I think at the root of it is a playfulness, a desire to try something new, try something different.
And it's a shame I've only got one question left, but I've loved your answers so far. Like, it's just so fascinating to hear it, like the behind the scenes of the film. So for my last question, in terms of sequences, the animation designs transform when the characters are whisked away from one place to another. I was just curious because it reminded me a lot of like in particular, they were short, I know, in comparison to the rest of the film, but it grabbed my attention because it reminded me of the art style of someone like J.J. Fillard. But I was curious who and what were the artistic inspirations were for those particular sequences.
Yeah, JJ's a good friend of mine. He's a close friend of mine. I worked with him way back on the Shrek movies. There's so many influences. You know, I'm a huge animation fan. Not only do I work in animation, but I'm just a long time fan. And I think the Trolls films, we created a universe that allows you to play in these different styles of animation. And we learned that, as long as it doesn't distract from the story, the audience likes to go on that journey. You know, they like these surprises. They like this texture and change, and it's fun for the crew. So it starts in a place of story. It always is based in the narrative. I think something like Vacay Island, which we talked about, like, we wanted a whole new species of character we haven't seen before, because the character, the brother who lives there, he wanted to get away. He wanted to get away from his life as far as he could. So we're like, okay, this has to be a place we haven't seen before. It has to be characters we haven't seen before. And we all love puppets. Puppets have been a big inspiration for Trolls. In Trolls World Tour, the animators went to puppet camp to kind of think about a new way to move the characters. So we said, let's go further with that idea. And you'll see these characters, they're like water balloons wrapped in a terry cloth towel. So we started playing with those little, all of a sudden these little ingredients come together to create something you haven't seen before, but they really move like puppets. With the villains who live in Mount Rageous, we wanted to build a city, and we wanted it plastic and hard surfaces, things we haven't used before outside of the fabric worlds. So we started playing with, like, what are the surfaces and textures we can use in this world. And then we had to build, like, who lives there. It started out, they felt too human, and there's no humans in the troll world. So we started pushing and pulling, and I love 1930s animation. We worked closely with our character designer, one of them, Craig Kelman, who really kind of narrowed in on Velvet Veneer's design and what the Mount Rageans look like. So it's a blend of kind of a little bit of 1930s animation, a 1930s look blended with a 90s kind of sensibility and a modern kind of desire for fame and opulence. So really, it's just all these incredible disparate ingredients to create something new. And it's about, again, like, being playful, about entertaining the crew, about being open to different influences. I mean, there's some 2D animation people talk about. I love that. I went to Cal Arts, where I studied 2D animation. I love psychedelia artwork, and psychedelic animation is long tradition, back to Fantasia, in the 40s. And just to be able to not have limits, to not have boundaries, and play in all those styles is one of the reasons why I love making these films.
I think that's a great answer. Like, yeah, no, like, that's God, I've just loved your answers. To be fair, it's just been so interesting just to sort of hear what you, not just the behind the scenes of Trolls, but just like hear like your thought and creative process. Really, it's just been Honestly, it's just been an absolute pleasure just to listen to.
Oh, thank you, Martin. It's been a joy talking about this stuff. We're 3 years, even though it felt fast to you, but it's still 3 years of intense work, head down. So it's always a pleasure to come out and share the film with people and talk about it.
No, yeah, I mean, hopefully, those people will, which I'm sure they will, but I reckon, because I think it's out in the UK first, if memory serves me right. So, yeah, hopefully I'll have a great start here before it's eventually released in the States.
Yeah, I really hope so. I'm excited for people to watch it finally.
Trolls Band Together is released in UK cinemas today, with a stateside release coming November 17th. Thanks to Martyn Warren and Walt Dohrn for the interview, and to keep up with everything Squiggly, including future episodes of this fine podcast, visit squiggly.com. Also be sure to follow us on Instagram @Squiggly Animation, facebook.com/Squiggly Magazine, and we're also @Squiggly on X. I've been Ben Mitchell, and until next time, happy animating.